Welcome to the Liberty Collaborative, where the past meets the present in the fight for freedom. We uncover the roots of liberty, spotlight the people who shaped it, and explore what it takes to preserve it today. If you're ready to think deeper, stand stronger, and act with purpose, you're in the right place. Let's reclaim what matters most.
And good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Liberty Collaborative Podcast. My name is Aaron Bowman, one of the hosts here, along with Mike Hancock, K. Carl Smith, and Chris Coyle. Happy Thursday morning to you. The week is almost over. And boy, do we have some things to talk about that have been in the news over the last couple days. So welcome, gentlemen. How are you?
Doing great.
Any better to be illegal.
And of course, I'm having an issue streaming to Rumble. Why wouldn't I be? All right. Well, we're just going to remove that one.
Better than you than us, Aaron. You're our pilot, man.
All right. So, well, that's removed from there, but that's okay. So we're going to be talking today, fellas, about what's kind of going on in our country if we're still a melting pot anymore. I'm specifically looking at what happened over the last couple of days in Dearborn, Michigan. Then we're going to be talking faith, politics, and the erosion of the American melting pot. So I got some clips. I guess we could start there if you want. I got a few clips, and then we can discuss from there. So the first one, I've got a couple different ones. So we can start with the mayor of Dearborn, or we can start with a news report, how they call these people that show up alternative right, I guess is what they're calling it. So you want to start with the mayor or the newscast?
What'll fire up the audience? What frames the issue better?
Let's start with the mayor. So this initial confrontation or going back and forth was from September 9th of 2025, and then it should come up to what happened about 12 days ago. So let's take a listen here.
You are a bigot, and you are a racist, and you are an Islamophobe. And although you live here, I want you to know as mayor, you are not welcome here. And the day you move out of the city will be the day that I launch a parade celebrating the fact that you moved out of the city.
Okay, first of all, let's just start with that opening. I mean,
wow.
I thought our mayor in Mansfield was bad when she says stuff, but this is just over the top. Like, you're talking to a citizen like this. And this all has to do with the street sign. So I'll play the rest here.
These comments from the Muslim mayor of Dearborn, Michigan to a resident at a city council meeting made news. The resident had committed the offense of expressing concern over a street being named after Osama Siblani.
My concern is he's a promoter of Hezbollah and Hamas.
The best suggestion I have for you is to not drive on Warren Avenue or to close your eyes while you're doing it.
Thank you. Also say that I'm an apostate, I'm going to hell based on the videos that you dropped. So if I were you, I sit silent.
Okay.
So perhaps we shouldn't be too surprised that Dearborn has drawn the attention of people like this guy, who came in and dropped a grenade at the city council meeting.
You guys got to keep it down. Okay?
In 1900, the world was.
So those of you that are listening, this is from November of 2025, about 12 days ago, I believe.
30% white. Fast forward 125 years, we are down to 7%. The Islamification of Europe is particularly aimed at the destruction of white people. The Islamification of America is aiming to meet the same goal. Our people, white Christian, European, Western civilization, we built the arts. We built the Colosseum. We have ran the world into the industrial age. And now this people here, the Muslim community, is looking to drag us back. They're looking to oppress women, oppress homosexuals. They're looking to destroy everything that makes America great. President Trump, send ICE into Dearborn. These people have overstayed their visas.
They're busy in Chicago.
But what's that?
They're busy in Chicago. They'll be right there.
Oh, it gets better.
My goodness.
Just wait. And I've got some other clips of this guy. I believe his name is Jake Lang.
Invaders, and they have come to this country to destroy our way of life. We know exactly your laws in your book about lying to our faces, pretending to be Americans, wearing your suits. But that doesn't happen anywhere else where you guys are in charge. There are 53 Muslim majority countries. And in all of them, it is tyranny, destruction. It is shithole living. We have to call it what it is. You guys don't live like we do. We don't want you in our country. We will come and eat your shawarma in Somalia, okay? We don't need it here in Michigan. We don't need it in any part of America. We have a right to self-determination. Our founding fathers fought and died for our posterity, for white Americans. And we're being driven out. You come here and you marry 4 or 5 women and you outbreed us. You change the laws. You make all of our country look like the places that you fled from. We don't want you here. Respectfully, get the fuck out of my country. I don't want you here. We don't want you here.
That's fine.
I don't
Aaron, I
want
think we
you
get
here. I
the
don't
drift,
want-
brother.
Okay, all right. So we got more stuff we'll bring up later, but let's talk about this because this is this turned out to be a really not completely violent, but if you watch some of the other alternative,
It will be violent. They're gonna have
It
a
will.
jihad. They're gonna have a jihad at his house.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
Watch
I
and
think
see.
he's ready. He's ready.
yeah. The vest was a tell.
and this is also the same guy
I
that
thought it was a suicide bomber when I first looked at him. I couldn't tell.
This
So,
was the
guys,
same guy that
it
was
just-
going around with a Koran and a pound of bacon and slapping the Koran with a pound of bacon. So listen, I get it. We all have the right to free speech, and I'm all for it. But I just think there's probably better ways of going at it. But let's discuss.
But Aaron, guys, in faith to our show of content you don't hear somewhere else and context and historical perspective, I'll just kick it off by saying this. And Michael, you've been on it, and Kay Carl, this idea of the grievance society, right? Creating ways of dividing people to win. And if you really look, right, we always go, what's the why underneath the what? Well, it seems to me the why here are people working with new ways to divide people, break them up. And Michael, the other day you called it a melting pot or a salad bowl.
Yeah.
I think what's going on here is this: the more we can fragment, the more we can create a nation of grievers, of grievance, that someone owes somebody something else. That's what this is about, is political control, I believe. Guys?
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. It's I sit there and I listen to the gentleman with the what looked like the bomb strapped around him. I'm looking at him, and a lot of what he says I can agree with. But the thing that he's allowed these people to do is to fundamentally join them. So he's just broken things out into another little segment. The white guys are like, they're the victim now, and they're versus understanding that this country was built upon principles. There's right and there's wrong, and we've got to push for us being on the side of what's right and righteous and what's true, not what is white or black or Somali or otherwise, right? And that's I think the thing that I listened to about him that is somewhat disturbing, because to me he's starting to sound just like them.
Right.
I just want to go back to the fundamental piece. How did this mayor get elected?
Oh,
because that's the start of the problem. Apparently, that's the root of the problem.
oh yeah.
And so I know Dearborn, Michigan. I mean, you got a high concentration of Muslims in that area. So they've really taken over the city and become the majority of those who are voting. But it goes to show that their value structure, in many cases, not all, their value structure is not aligned with our fundamental principles of the United States of America. That's concerning.
Well, and it's getting worse, guys. And I'll share this piece with you. Got a writer named Tom Klingenstein, and his recent article by one of his guest writers describes a situation in Austin, Texas, where this guy had moved from East Texas into Austin, lived in kind of a high-tech enclave where across the street with these high-tech jobs, and most people living in the condominium complex are from India. And he noticed that instead of following the instructions on the trash compactor, you open the door, you throw your trash in and press a button, They just threw it at the machine and stacked it. So there's a huge pile of rotting trash in the Texas sun. And what he realized was these people are from India, where trash is in the streets culturally. And what was worse is you've got Governor Abbott celebrating Indian holidays to curry favor with these growing, K. Carl, to your point, group, of voters, and currying favor to them, not 1776, our independence, but theirs. And so it's this idea that they come in, they don't follow our rules, they don't care, they don't learn our language, and they
don't assimilate. They don't assimilate. No, that's the problem.
Frederick Douglass talked about, K. Carl, didn't he? Have a very specific quote on this or statement.
He did. It was a speech entitled "Our Composite Nationality." When he was asked the question about Chinese immigration, he said, "Let them come." But then Douglas said, "There's a process that has to be followed. You have to respect our Constitution, speak English, and understand what the first duty of citizenship is, and that's to obey the law." So Douglas believed in complete assimilation for our country and for them as well. So it's beneficial both ways. So all this is happening right before us, guys, and it's concerning because I think about my grandchildren. What will life be like for them when they get my age? Oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
And so therefore we gotta become more involved in the legislative process and become better messengers of liberty, which we're gonna talk about, I guess, in the future. We gotta become better messengers of liberty.
Yeah.
How to defeat this? So it's not just socialism.
Aaron,
you got Sharia law we're dealing with too.
Right.
To K. Carl's point, you played a soundbite, which was entirely and exclusively that, a soundbite that gets clicks, that made that guy feel good who was speaking, and all the people like him feel good. But the question is, did it do any good?
Did it motivate him to get out?
Michael, yeah. And
talking about the guy with the body armor on?
Yeah. And if you think about
quickly, Chris, to me, when I heard things he makes a racist feel comfortable.
Right.
That's a problem.
It's like a drunk uncle at Thanksgiving dinner. You're kind of giggling because he's touching some nerves and some truth, but you don't go at it that way.
No.
No.
And why aren't you sitting in the mayor's seat, fella?
Right.
Instead of shouting at the mayor. They use
Chris,
our system.
To put this in more of a perspective, you remember we had that bus that came through Connecticut? I can't remember the name. They have a bus that's very similar that I guess they go around. So part of me feels like this really was an activism at some extent. It was more for live streams, funneling people to donate money for clicks, that sort of thing. That's why I think it was a little over the top.
Yeah.
And I'm all for bringing awareness to this because this piqued my interest, something I wasn't really aware of. So there's another guy, what was his name? Nick Shirley. He was there reporting on it also, alternative news source. And he was talking to a lady from the UK. She came here and became a US citizen at 18. And she heard this protest was going on. So she came up from DC. And the reason is because when she was in the UK and Wales, as a woman, she was told, as there was such an influx, a rapid influx of the Muslim population, that there were now places in town where she was no longer allowed to go as a citizen of UK. And so it dug me into looking at British news, and I started watching some of their clips over there regarding this. And they have 83 Sharia law courts in the UK and Wales. Now, what it's concerning to me is our Constitution is supposed to be the highest law of the land, correct? So now what happens when we start to see Sharia courts pop up here in the United States? We already have, who was the guy in, and it's very, I guess it's kind of similar with Minnesota and the Somalians and the guys speaking Somalian to everybody. Again, it's not like K. Carl said, there's no assimilation. You're not coming here. And that's why we used to be a melting pot. And now I don't think we are anymore.
And somebody at the lower court level is allowing that to happen. This is not happening. Somebody's allowing it to happen. I don't know who.
Well,
somebody in the course is allowing this to happen.
Yeah, I just said through witnessing swearing in for the Aurora City Council, right? And one of the things that the judge said was, you swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the state of Colorado, and the laws of Aurora, the city. And these people sat there and they all agreed to do so. A couple refused to swear to God, right? But my point is, these people sit there, and I know for a fact they don't know anything about the Constitution, and they either the state or the federal Constitution. And so, how can you swear to uphold something you know nothing about?
Here's how they do it, Michael, because they know they don't care. They hope that the voting elements don't care either. Don't know.
Exactly.
So they're playing on a simple-minded voter, as Rush Limbaugh would say. And that's why we got to become a more informed citizenry, because if not, this stuff is going to happen, and the Lord hope it get down to Alabama.
And K. Carl, I'd submit to you guys that you might have had a context where people said, okay, this party disagrees with us on these policy issues. And we know it's become metastasized and extenuated now, where the left has gone further left and so forth. But what I don't think they understand is these people don't even care about that argument.
No.
They want to get in power. Let's take Minnesota to do enterprise scale fraud. So the healthcare providers, the daycares, fraud, right? Or in the case of Dearborn, Aaron, take over, rename street signs, and basically say pack sand. So the reason they can, guys, remember, is as long as the means justify the end, and in their view, we are corrupt. In their view of God, we should be destroyed. So to them, this is a spiritual journey. They have no roots, no sense of loyalty or obligation to follow their systems, just to fake it, get enough votes, get in power, and change as much as you can, as fast as you can, while sending checks back to Somalia or wherever they are in the Middle East.
And they over here in droves. Every gas station is owned by an Arab, somebody by Arab descent. And so I don't want to sound like I'm a bigot or something, but I'm concerned about when you allow people to come to your house and they enter the front door, and your door may be locked, unlocked, and they say, take care of me. I'm not going to do that. And you're not going to come in and change the laws in my house.
Yeah.
How I'm raising my children.
That's right.
So to me, it's just that simple.
K. Carl, you're a little bit too nice in your description there. It's like they come in the house, they climb up on the kitchen table, pull down their pants, and take a big poop. Right? Yeah. You're supposed to like it, okay?
Yeah.
Just like I keep telling you guys, Goldilocks should have been brought on charges for breaking and entering.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And look at all the fraud that's been in the news coming out of Minnesota. I don't want to. It's amazing, and that's my money, your money, everybody's money that they pay taxes, and it's all going back. And they're making, what was it, like 4 to 6 times more doing fraud here than they would make if they were back in Somalia or other places. And I was talking with our committee for the GOP for the state. We're talking messaging, and this kind of came up in a roundabout way. And the problem is conservatives, Republicans, whatever you want to put on it for a title, we tiptoe around certain things. We pussyfoot around instead of saying, hey, listen, there is absolutely nothing wrong with coming to this country as long as you're going to assimilate to our way of life. You can bring your heritage here. You can celebrate whatever you want in your house, whether you're Jewish, Christian, Somalian, what have you. But for some reason, we're afraid to say that because we're going to be labeled as bigots or racist. And all we're saying is this is how our country was founded. We were founded by settlers, not by immigrants. And that's what a lot of people misrepresent. And so, yeah, come here. We have open arms for those that are fleeing their country, but don't bring your country here to our shores.
I don't know any country other than the United States that you can go in and set up your own form of government and ignore the government that's in place in that country. You can't do it in Saudi Arabia.
No,
I don't know of any besides this crazy place.
Carl? They're doing it in Britain, in the UK, and you know why?
In France.
They let them do it.
The most free, right? The most free, and particularly when you get politicians that want to be woke and let's be understanding. The guys. Let me twist this slightly.
But Europe is crazy anyway. They're doing all kind of stuff that I don't go with. Yeah.
But here's what's interesting. As you look at the navigation going on and the calibration of messaging going into next year's elections, the Democrats that are polling so low have focus groups and doing surveys. And their new thing is the sort of economic New Deal, that people are being left behind, affordability. You heard that word in Tennessee, right? Well, Michael, you've been on this. What it means is creating a new level of grievance.
Yep.
And grievance is it's just a different flavor of divisive, getting groups, and you become a victim. So I'm a victim of someone else's success. I'm a victim of inflation. And if you look at the cost of groceries and number of things have gotten more expensive. But what you've got underlying this is this idea that we'll seize on the privilege, or I should say the victims that have grievances, and in our next cycle next year say, we're going to fix it, of course, with your money. Here's my question to you. Has this backfired, this assimilation in these ways? One, the Somalis don't care about, that gal doesn't care about Chuck Schumer in Minnesota.
No.
The squad, right? They care about scorched earth, right? Minnesota, they don't care. They're sending the money back to the Somalia terrorists. So has this backfired? Same thing. They didn't expect all these Hispanics to be voting Republican, be religious and conservative. The Asians, they hate, because the Asians actually like to work and like family values. So has this immigration thing backfired on the left, that it's metastasizing into some new creature?
You know what? I don't know if it's backfired. I know there certainly are a number of us that are rising up and beginning to fight against it and encourage others to stand up and become active participants in governing our own lives. But these guys, they're not backing down. Let's put it that they're turning up the heat and continuing to press harder, because I think they do sense that there is becoming some sort of a rejection to what it is that they're doing.
Well, that goes to me to explains that many on the left have a reprobate mind. They can't see it. They don't have a conscience to see it. But we could see that, the Hispanic community, they're Catholics. They don't believe in abortion. But the Democrat Party, the leftists, they lack so much moral clarity. They can't see that they lack it. They just push forward with it. And that's their problem. Now it's coming back in their face. That's exactly what's going on. But they got the reprobate mind. They're not going to see it.
When you've got a mind of people who are elevated into elected office and have never had a job, never had to make money, make a payroll, that always sort of been given stuff.
Yeah.
And look at Barack Obama as an example, Joe Biden, right? Now, Hillary Clinton, at least I'll say, went to colleges, did some work, worked as a lawyer. So if there's still crooks, but we've had a generation of folks that don't know what it's like to earn income, literally have no clue. Remember when Barack Obama said, you didn't build that?
Right.
Well, fast forward, you have this now that everyone is owed something. And what I'm curious about these guys in Dearborn, Aaron, is they get in, and how do they think people are going to continue to pay taxes or even respect their authority when they're putting up street signs that are honoring a terrorist?
Chris, you have to remember, though, that the places that these guys have come from are devastated economically, right? And so they've left those places, they come here, and so their tolerance for things getting bad is pretty hot, right? And so what they do is they step into the position, they advocate policies that ultimately destroy the surrounding areas, destroy the value of a property, destroy people's willingness to create businesses and all that sort of stuff. So ultimately what they do is they come here to replicate what they've already allowed to happen in the other places that they're coming from.
Yeah, they don't stay at home and fight for liberty like we did.
Yeah.
They don't fight for liberty. They leave and find somewhere where there is liberty, and they come with not understanding the Constitution at all. They don't fight for liberty. That's the problem in the world. We're the only country that espouses liberty the way we do, and that's why people come here. But other countries, if you want to be successful and stop being jealous of the United States, repeat the process and embrace liberty so people can flourish.
Well, to your point, you look at these themes, none of these things exist alone, right? They're in an ecosystem where one sort of thing is affecting some or to a large extent another. So take, for example, the growing anti-Israel, anti-Jewish. It used to be you wouldn't say it, then they started saying it after October 7th protests, and now there are people in mainstream media literally saying, "Well, the Jews are the problem."
Yeah.
Here you have guys in Dearborn, and their number one mission in life is to annihilate Israel and the Jews. So I think the rising up of people like that really begins to legitimize these kinds of positions where you see it, where the only democracy in the Middle East, the only place people are a meritocracy, they want to destroy that too. And so start destroying it in the U.S. in Dearborn, Michigan, or in the suburbs of Minneapolis, Minnesota.
What the saving grace is that we have the right to keep and bear arms. That's what's stopping us all. This stuff. That's what's really stopping this. If we didn't have that, we've been taken over a long time ago.
Game over.
Yeah. I mean, look at France and England, how fast and how fast the population grew over there. It was like overnight almost.
Yeah, and they welcomed that. They welcomed it. Now they're sorry that they did it.
Yep.
And you look at Poland that years ago put up fences, said, nope, you're not coming in. And EU chastised them. Remember, they were criticized. Germany opened up their doors, and look at now.
Yep.
You know, because Poland said, you want to come to Poland, you got to have a job. You got to understand how we live. We're not just opening the doors.
And you have to assimilate.
You have to assimilate. You know, someone pointed out, you go to Poland and you assimilate, you're still the guy from Italy. You're not Polish.
Right.
Right. We are the only country on earth where you come here, you're sworn in as a citizen, and you say, I'm an American with heritage from, in my case, County Donegal, Ireland, you know, but you're American. And it's a big difference.
Chris, if you come to my house, you stay for a long time, you're gonna be a Smith. You're gonna assimilate, doggone it.
Hey, knowing what's on your menu, I'll be down there this weekend.
The venison will bring you in. Yeah,
venison, and we got to have some of that sushi.
You know, Chris, you bring up a good point with that, because if you go to like New York City, right, you go to Little Italy, you go to Canal Street for Chinatown, you go to Koreatown. Yes, they speak their native language, but they also speak English.
Yeah.
So you can go there and have a conversation with it. It's not like going to Dearborn where they have now police officers that speak Arabic. It's
scary.
It is. It is really scary to think that we are no longer a melting pot. We're just, 50 million people going in 50 million different directions. And I was looking at this, and I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't believe the Constitution was constructed for something like that.
No,
it really was for a people to come together, to assimilate, and to have those core values, those shared values. And I don't know, maybe in 3 or 5 years, if it keeps going this direction, maybe it won't even be that way. It'll be all separate every little state will be a different country,
Well, I think, Aaron, that's the thing that they're trying to do. I mean, if you take and study the Constitution, you'll understand that Article 10 of the Constitution says that the federal Constitution is the law of the land. It is superior, right?
Correct.
And you see all of these, like Dearborn, Sharia law. Where in the hell is that in the Constitution? In fact, I would argue that it's anti-Constitution. Constitution, right? But you've got people that have been put into local office that refuse, that will stand up and swear that they will protect the Constitution all the time, knowing that everything that they're going to do going forward is going to undermine it.
And if that happens, would they undermine the Constitution, therefore undermining our God-given rights? That has to be some type of legislation in place where they are immediately impeached from office.
Yeah.
That's violation of law.
Yeah.
Guys, but you guys make a good point. Who do they go to? Right? You got a Democrat governor, I believe a Democrat attorney general. So look at our state, Aaron. We know there's cheating going on, elections, there's all sorts of stuff. We had stuff going on. Tong is busy suing Trump every other day. You know, he's looking the other way. There is no recourse, guys, until, unfortunately, the federal government steps in. Someone makes a constitutional claim at the federal level and says, I'm not respecting any of this. But that takes money, it takes guts and time. But this state of Michigan and Minnesota, you ever notice, K. Carl, Dearborn ain't happening in Alabama. It's not happening. It's not happening in Texas. It's happening in states that are allowing this sort of thing to metastasize.
Yeah, the liberal mindset. Oh, kumbaya, everybody. Hey, I want to read to you about one paragraph, something that what Aaron was talking about. This is an excerpt from Douglas's speech, Our Composite Nationality. And Douglas said, quote, "We should welcome to our ample continent all nations, kindreds, tongues, and people as fast as they learn our language, comprehend the duties of citizenship, which should incorporate them into the American body politic. The outspread wing of the American eagle are broad enough to shelter all who are likely to come." And he said, speak English, understand our Constitution, not to ignore the Constitution.
Right.
That's Douglas. That's not a Tea Party patriot person.
Yep.
That definitely sounds a lot better than what Tampon Tim's doing out in Minnesota.
So you look at a statistic, guys. I was just looking at a study again on this situation in Texas and the growth of the Indian population. And a study in 2024 called American Attitude Study, 83 of the respondents were U.S. citizens, but they call it paper Americanism because you know how much in 2023 the Indians sent home nearly $33 billion back to their homeland.
Wow.
Yeah.
We need to shut the door on this immigration for a minute. I think it should be a moratorium on the immigration.
Yeah.
And foreign aid. Look, we got to get ourselves together. We're in debt. We're going to put a hold on stuff right quick for a minute. Give us 2 or 3 years to get ourselves together. Then we'll come back and we can have a discussion. But where we're going right now is open borders concept by the left that led to some of this stuff. We don't know who's here and their intentions. I mean, I don't feel protected by the government. Now, until Trump came in office, a little bit different. But when those knucklehead was in, and it was, Katie, don't lock the door, not bar the door.
You know, these people are quite adept at when you're ready and when you have someone like a Trump or some people like us that want to say, oh, stop this, let's get back to a bit of sanity. Well, of course, being sane means that you're also a racist, right? Or whatever other derogatory term that they can use. So, and what that ultimately ends up doing, it scares people that that are not brave, right? In fact, I remember I saw these 2 little old white ladies run out of a Aurora City Council meeting when the radicals were calling people racist and stuff, saying, I don't want to be called a racist. And they hit the door, man.
Guys, listen to this. I think this is a wonderful piece of writing. And again, this is this article published under Tom Klingenstein's name. I'll send this to you. It's called When the Melting Pot Stops Working. And I love this paragraph. Let me share it for a second. It says, the American Republic, the American Constitution, the American way of life. These are the most complex pieces of political machinery developed in the history of man. They rely on centuries of advancement and inherited tradition, passed down through generations in the form of distinctly American culture. When the constituent parts in our Republican machinery, the American citizenry, are swapped out for others untutored in this culture, parens, and in many cases actively hostile to it, close parens, the machine is simply not altered, it becomes inoperable. I think that sums up pretty well what we've been saying.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we should pivot here. We got a few minutes left. Let's pivot to maybe brainstorm some ideas for solutions on what we could do, maybe at the local level, state level, within your close circle around your family table. There's got to be some solutions that we can start getting that conversation going and brainstorming those ideas, because I don't have a lot of faith in some of these elected officials. I mean, luckily we don't have a mayor like they have in Dearborn here in Mansfield. I mean, we're pretty close, but there's got to be something we can start, even at the small macro level, to start bringing awareness and change, where it's not somebody like this Jake guy going out there with his big bus and slapping bacon on a Koran, because I don't really think, other than clicks and views, really makes a difference at the end of the day.
Aaron, I'll start with and give a shout out to Sherry and the folks at Leadership Program of the Rockies, where we were fortunate to meet Kate Carl. I met Michael that way. And one of the things Shari talks about, and the program talks about, in the case of Connecticut, as you guys know, is called Charter Oak Leadership Program. And that is that politics reflects culture. And that, Aaron, to your point, what we've sort of learned in our journeys is that bringing people back to a common view of shared values and principles. And I won the award the year Defender of the Declaration for a piece called My Car. And I talk about how people love their car. They decorate it, they buy tires for it. It's uniquely American and uniquely theirs. Well, that's known as personal property. And if we can explain to people why they value their home, their condominium, their car, their right to privacy, their right to various things, and that these are things worth protecting that indeed don't exist anywhere else. You know how few people don't understand? You cross into Canada, you don't have the Fifth Amendment right. You don't have free speech, even Canada. So I think it starts, guys, by really what Kay Carl has helped mentor us on, is helping people understand our shared values and principles and how we can have legitimate policy differences. But let's start with a foundation. And if they don't agree with the foundation, as I'm learning in my research on how people's minds change, we need to become better listeners, Aaron. We, finding out why it is, to Kay Carl's point, Michael's, the guy in the vest ought to have a tie on running for the mayor's office, said, Mayor, I will see you on election day when I take your, Kay Carl, you're on mute.
You're mute.
Kay Carl, you're on mute.
You can't show up in a bum outfit and think you're going to get people to follow you.
Right.
He's not the Pied Piper.
Right.
No, you're right. He has to have a navy blue suit on with a white shirt and probably a red, a blue tie.
Yeah.
He's not an influencer. I would say I agree with you, Chris. It's about values. And here's one thing, we can talk about this later, but just hit my head. What will life be without Trump? Because Mega's gone.
Yeah.
What are we going to do then? We got to get back to values.
Gotta get back to
Values unite. That's what we have to do. So
Well,
there is life after Trump, but the life ain't Mega. The life is values. And that's what the Mega is all about. Those
and Michael
values.
and Aaron, one of the things you guys know I did over the last year was explain to people, you don't celebrate the personality in Donald Trump. What you do celebrate is what really is meant by Make America Great Again.
Yes.
When will we be great? What does greatness mean? Is it a destination or a journey? And when you get people to open up and say, what do you love about your life here? That's the beginning of a conversation, not a confrontation.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the things that I talk about in my book is that, what we need to do is seek truth before power. The people that we're talking about here are people that seek power by any means necessary. They lie, right? They steal. they will not admit what their real agendas are. They just want to capture the seat of power and then wreak havoc on the rest of us. The other thing that we talk about here quite often, K. Carl, definitely, is that we've got to first seek to get people engaged in conversations. We want to change people's minds, right? And you do that by engaging them, sitting down, having conversation about values. I think Frederick Douglass Republicans, understanding those values that Frederick Douglass espoused is absolutely critical in that. If you can get people talking about values and principles versus the orange men or the communists and that sort of stuff, you begin to move the ball forward.
And Michael, you and Stephanie did that. You knocked on doors all over the place.
Yep.
People said, "Who are you, Republican?" And you switched it. You talked about George Washington, political parties. You did it. K. Carl, who was the wonderful lady from Jacksonville, Florida, that we were working with for a while, who flipped the whole town council by knocking on what is it?
Keisha King.
Her story, it was amazing, of going around having coffee in people's houses.
It's all about values. That's all they talked about. Even Guy Lalonde down in Lakeland, Florida, who won a city council seat that had been occupied by Black Democrats for about 30 years. This white boy won it. Why? Talked about values.
Yep.
And so he was stereotyped as being a Republican, because then he got to a point where he started quoting Douglass.
Yeah.
You can't quote Douglass and be a racist.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. And a big shout out to Johnny Tolliver 8764. Thanks for watching and joining us on YouTube. We appreciate you taking your morning with us.
Hey, Johnny is an old high school buddy of mine. How about that?
Oh, look at that.
All right. Go.
Great. Yeah, I think a lot of this has to do with, from my perspective, is one, bringing awareness to the issue. So something that's happening in Dearborn, what's going on in the UK, because that seems to find its way to our shores, and then getting to those values and principles. And I mean, if somebody's watching this, start a podcast, do something that's hyper local in your area. I was looking at stuff for Mansfield for a while, calling the Mansfield Minute. I still might do it. I haven't decided, where it just brings up local issues and then the values on how to correct that stuff. And if we don't, we can't rely on the legacy media. You can't rely on Fox News or Newsmax, even though they're a little bit better, or OAN or whatever MSNBC's calling themselves these days, MSM Now or something. You really need to look past that and below the surface to really understand. And to your point, Mike, like you were saying, people running for office, call them out if they don't know their constitution and what they're swearing an oath to, because as somebody that's voting for these people, they should, because that's what they're in there to do. And if they're not, they're going to be in there to push Sharia law or something else.
Exactly. While they have people looking at the federal offices and stuff like that, what they're doing is they're taking over school boards, they're taking over city councils, they're taking over all sorts of boards and commissions, and then it's too late, right? Because they've got control. So we've got to get out, get engaged, and get involved in listening, understanding what needs to be done, and being the strongest and the best advocates for that to happen.
Well, guys, a sliver of hope here, a ray of hope. Again, when you look at all these things related and this idea that an imbalance over here creates an imbalance over here, I want to remind everyone that national research, polling research, has showed a very strong correlation between people who are feeling aggrieved, right, about the cost of living, the cost of rent, of lack of affordability of home. And you know what they're blaming? Number one, illegal immigrants. So this idea that we'll get the blue collar guys, we'll get them fired up, and they'll want more government handouts. No, they're saying you created the problem. And Aaron, you know our favorite numbers in Connecticut. Guys, check this out. We have about 3,500, quote, unhoused or homeless. 3,500. Leave that number for a sec. We have, the last estimate I saw was 167,000. And I was told by Dominic Rapini it's over 200,000 illegal immigrants in Connecticut. Third number, Our state spent 1.6 or 7 billion last year on illegal immigrants. So ask yourself, here are these people in New London and all over trying to find a place to live, particularly at the lower income levels, can't find a place because these 167 illegal immigrants are living somewhere, likely paid by government. So what's the point of all this? That if we keep pointing out to people that these policies shape outcomes that make their lives worse. Why? Because they allowed themselves to become dependent on people saying they're going to be fair. They're going to fight for them. No, they're fighting for your vote and they're distributing money.
Yep.
So there's something happening here. The illegal immigration was certainly an election issue last year. It could be an election issue next year, 2026.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, fellas, we are at the 45-minute mark, and I've got some other things coming up at noon I have to attend to. So let's wrap this up with some final comments.
I'd just like to say, people, anyone listening, please spread the message. We've got to get engaged. We've sat on the bench far too long. One day you wake up and the next thing you know, you don't even recognize the city that you're living in. We've got to start participating in showing up at city council meetings, get to know your ward representatives on the city council. Because my view is that the power comes from getting engaged locally and making change there. And you'll go from the bottom up. It's not going to come from the top down. It's just
Correct.
two differences. So get engaged.
I'll say, take the time to educate yourself. Go to Amazon and get a book written by Michael Hancock and K. Carl Smith. It explains all this, right?
There you go.
And we break down what socialism is and why liberty is so important. If you can't recognize a lie, you will never recognize the truth.
Thank you.
So you got to know what the lies are and what the false promises are of socialism that's out there that want to take us down. Open borders is one of the promises that Karl Marx talked about.
Yep.
So you got to know that. Now you got to know how to defend it. That's where Frederick Douglass come in, and that's what's in the books. So
Yep.
I encourage you to get that. I'm not here to hawk the books. I'm here to share with you what works and what the message is that's powerful.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm here to hawk both their books. I'll be honest. They are fantastic. You read them and you're forever changed. I'll wrap up this way. Guys, often in life, we see people who say things really to make themselves feel better. So that guy in Dearborn, he made himself, and oh, good for you. The reality is you've got to say things that have an effect on moving toward your goal, achieving something. And that achieving is beginning to inform people of what's going on and having a plan to be effective. I'll close by saying opinions don't change anything. Aaron, to your point, the clicks and all that, but evaporates like yesterday's fizzies. It's gone, right? It's only action. So if everyone listening says, what one action I can take in the next 4 weeks to begin to educate people, organize, that's what we got to do.
Absolutely. And I'll close with this. Johnny wants his autographed copy there, Mike. So make sure you get him one of those. And he also says he loves you, brother. And with that being said, hey, it's great that you're here. Please share this broadcast. We're here every Thursday, roughly 10:30 Eastern Standard Time, 10:30 a.m. And we try to bring really good context and information regarding things that are going on in the news, how to be able to talk to individuals who may not be completely lost to the left and are looking for answers. And you could be that person to give them those answers. And maybe even just sharing this podcast with them could change their viewpoint. So thank you for joining us. We will see you all next Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great week.
Thanks for joining us on the Liberty Collaborative. If today's episode lit a fire or gave you clarity, share it. Be part of the movement. Subscribe, leave a review, and keep the conversation going. Until next time, stand firm.